2022 might not have had such a top-heavy year in heavy metal like 2021 did, with Senjutsu by Iron Maiden and Halloween by Halloween being absolute smash classic releases. But 2022 did have a fairly large amount of great releases from different bands out there, different genres for heavy metal. So let's get to it. We'll get to the honorable mentions first here. We've got Rock Believer by the Scorpions. The Scorpions came back after a pretty long layoff with this album, and it's more of a rock album than a metal album, but I'd still put it under it because it's the Scorpions, and the Scorpions kick ass. But it's a really, really solid album from them. It just doesn't quite hit to the top 5. Other ones we have are Electrified Brain by Municipal Waste, another great album from the thrash metal titans out there. We've got Immutable by Meshuggah. We've got Of Kingdom and Crown by Machine Head. Machine Head comes back with another great album they're doing really good work with lately. And then, of course, we've got Carpe Diem by Saxon. And not as good as Thunderbolt, but Carpe Diem still a really good album filled with really great riffs from Saxon, proving that they can still do it with the best of the heavy metal bands out there. But we'll kick it off with number 5 on the list. We've got Patient Number 9 by Ozzy Osbourne, a return to form for Ozzy that you would think would be more of a depressing album based on his current condition and health and all of that. But Patient Number 9 does have that little bit of depressive stuff. Patient Number 9 does have a little bit of that depression and sort of melancholy and sadness, but it's also very triumphant. It has songs about the power of friendship and the power of music and how Ozzy will live on even after he dies, with tracks like Immortal, which is one of the highlights from it. There's a lot of collaborations on this album. You have Robert Trujillo, Duff McKagan, Chad Smith, Eric Clapton, Taylor Hawkins, rest in peace, Zakk Wylde, Mike McCready, and Tony Iommi even plays on a couple of the tracks. So you've got some great tracks on Patient Number 9 from Ozzy, and it's a return to form for him. Like I said before, you've got Immortal, you've got Mr. Darkness, and the title track as real highlights from this one. So if you haven't taken a listen to Patient Number 9, make sure to go do that, because Ozzy, once again, proves he can make a hell of an album, even in his current condition and his current health. Great album. Number 4, we have another return to form album. We have The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead by Megadeth. And Megadeth has been they haven't released an album since 2016. This is their first album since Dystopia, which is one of my favorites in the band. It goes up there with the best of their albums. But you have some turmoil in the band. You obviously have Dave Mustaine he had throat cancer, so you had to deal with that. You had Dave Ellefson getting fired from the band for his sexual misconduct stuff that, is unfortunate, but that's kind of the reality. And then you have shuffling of members. You have Chris Adler coming in and out. You have different guitarists coming in. 2016's Dystopia was great, but the album before that, Super Collider, had some highlights, but really was not a great Megadeth album. But you get back to that form of Dystopia here with The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. And it is just thrash metal personified here, really. It's a great, great album, and lots of tracks that have callbacks to previous Megadeth albums. I was about to say Metallica, but lots of callbacks to previous Megadeth albums and sounds that you can remember. And of course, the title is a callback to So Far, So Good, So What? And some great tracks here, like the title track particularly, and then We'll Be Back, Night Stalkers, Life in Hell. And you have some Megadeth humor finally back in the band. Dave Mustaine does have a good sense of humor, and so you have some tracks that feel like a little bit like a Twilight Zone episode. But go check out The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead if you haven't listened to it. If you're a Megadeth fan or a fan of thrash metal, you will like this album. Number 3, we have Leather Terror by Carpenter Brut, and it takes two of my favorite things with the synth poppy music and metal and puts them together. And it's not conventional in the textbook definition of heavy metal, but this is still a heavy metal album. It still kicks a tremendous amount of ass. And if you like those two types of genres, or if you're looking for something a little bit new with heavy metal, Leather Terror really does well, and it has a nice sort of 80s stylings to it. So if you do like that 80s style, you'll like this album. Some highlights include Daystalker and Night Prowler. Those two tracks go back to back, and make sure you listen to them back to back, because they flow very well into each other, and the transition is amazing between those two tracks. And also we have Straight Outta Hell as another highlight here. If you like horror movies like I do, if you can see all the ones behind me, you'll like this album as well. It's got some horror stylings to it, so obviously horror movies, heavy metal, 80s stuff all go together, and you get that with Leather Terror here by Carpenter Brut. We're up to the final two, and number 2, we have another return to form. We have The God Machine by Blind Guardian. And Blind Guardian, they're... not to say that they've sort of drifted away from their traditional sounding style, but this album really pushes it back to the power metal, thrash power metal stylings that they had earlier in their career. And this is a return to form for the band. It is their heaviest album in years, and it's been a long time coming. Hopefully we can get a US tour for Blind Guardian to see them. I haven't seen them yet. I love Blind Guardian. I've never seen them in concert. But some of the highlights of the album include Secrets of the American Gods, Deliver Us from Evil, which I'm surprised hasn't been a Blind Guardian track before, and we've got Architects of Doom here as another highlight. And this is just a great album, and it isn't an album that Blind Guardian could have made at any other point in their career, I don't think. It's very much so a 2022 album for them, and is just the culmination of a band at, not at the peak of their powers, but they're at another peak, maybe a lower peak of their powers. But Blind Guardian here, a great album from them. Number 1, you can see it on my shirt. It's Impera by Ghost, and I don't care if you think that Ghost isn't a heavy metal band. They are, and they are taking over the world. And it is so interesting to see this band that sings a lot about Satan and sexual euphemisms and sexual innuendo getting such mainstream attention here. But Impera is the album that does that. It combines that mainstream sound that people might say they don't like, but they do. With heavy metal, with the rock, the blues, the just heavy stuff from Ghost, and with that sort of Blue Oyster Cult vocals, the honey-tinged vocals of Tobias Forge as Papa Emeritus here. And so Impera is just great, and I did a video review of this. You can check it out here or wherever the little title card thing goes, but it's one of the best albums that they've ever put out. I really like Prequel and some of their other albums, but I think this is still their best. And it's the perfect bridge between that heavy metal sound and mainstream, like I said. And some of the highlights include Kaisarion, which is one of the heaviest, sort of happy sounding heavy metal songs out there. Love that track. Spillways, Griftwood, and Respite in the Spittlefields for that more progressive sound. So you get a little bit of everything from Ghost here with Impera. They did go out on the Impera tour. They're going back out on tour in 2023. But if you haven't listened to this album, go check it out, because it's a really fantastic overall heavy metal album that includes a lot of different sounds, and you'll really get a kick out of it. 2022 was a great year for heavy metal, but what's your favorite heavy metal album in 2022? Let me know in the comments, and let me know if you like the video, like the list, don't like the list, whatever you want to say. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe on the video, because it really helps me out to know what you want to see. And we'll get more heavy metal content out there. We're getting Judas Priest-a-thon started in 2023. I did Iron Maiden-a-thon, which was the track-by-track, album-by-album, every album review. We're doing that with Judas Priest, starting with Rockarola in January of 2023. So make sure to look out for that. And from me to you for now, thank you for watching. And heavy metal will never die, and rock on, everybody. Thanks for watching.